All right. I probably saw this and got this information from a lot of the same sources you guys did, which is this tweet by Pixie, aka Supreme Goddess here at Pixie Love on X. And this was on January 20th. So she says, on November 29th, the streamer Destiny non-consensually shared my nudes, making me victim of revenge. I will be suing him in federal court. Here's my story. So we're going to read through her story. I'm going to read those facts. And once again, I probably would not have done this if it wasn't for her suing and actually going through with that and filing the police reports and everything required with that. But this is a very serious allegation. And once again, if this was done, that's kind of the end of the story. If it was non-consensual and it's kind of an open and shut case as to the non-consensuality of it, it's kind of done, right? The case is going to be very simple as to those factors. But there may be other stuff involved in this as well. So that was the initial tweet. Let's get into it right here. So here's her statement on her Substack, and I'll blow this up real quick so you guys can read it because it's in like size 2 font. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to try to focus on what is legally relevant versus what is not legally relevant, because there are things that are more legally relevant versus others. Okay, so I will be suing Stephen Kenneth Bunnell this second. First of all, I'm not worried about doxing Destiny. His name's been out there for a while. I don't even think he tries to hide it. And obviously the legal documents are going to have his name in there. So, you know, there's his docs, Stephen. I'm going to call him Destiny because that's what most people know him by. That's what the algorithm picks up on. But, you know, so what I'm trying to say is everybody who is going to join in, and there may be more than 3, because the point is at least. So let's say this is 12 people. I want to see all 12 people come out. And that may very well be the case. Right? I hope to be the last. I will not be commenting on the experience of the other women he has hurt, as it's not my place or story to tell. I will, however, share my story in the hopes of preventing this from occurring again. I have known Destiny for around 5 to 6 years now, and I often find myself heavy disagreement with him. So, okay. So, just to preface this, a lot of this is legally irrelevant. So, whether or not somebody was dating you for 1 month or dating you for 6 years, if you non-consensually shared a photo, that could still be a problem. Now, after 6 years, there could be something about your relationship that led them to assume that was okay. For example, I talked about this in the case of Nick Rekieta. Nick Rekieta and his wife may or may not have been into voyeurism, right? Which is a common thing in the swinging community circles that they were running in. So, for example, if you're into voyeurism, that may negate your argument that you had a problem with others taking pictures of you and sharing them, or if you had some sort of sexual humiliation fetish and you liked somebody sharing photos, there's proof of this and you can substantiate that. There might be some sort of mitigation of that. But absent some sort of factor like that, it wouldn't matter whether you had a one-night stand and you shared a photo of a girl that you shouldn't have shared, or whether you had a long relationship and you shared a photo you shouldn't have shared. That can be a problem, and that can be potentially illegal. And yes, Destiny, to be clear, he did have a kind of open relationship. It was kind of I guess it was just a kind of open relationship where he could see men and women and his wife could see men and women, I guess. And then that obviously didn't work. There are a lot of things he had with that relationship. And I think the issues were, you know, this was a sort of completely open scenario where they could see other people romantically, not just sexually, but romantically. Those things never really work long term. They always will cause a problem. So definitely when I heard him doing that, I'm like, this is never going to work. And of course, it's blowing up in the most spectacular way ever. And it turns out that despite having this supposedly open concept, was not exactly open and transparent. You would think somebody who has an idea of open sexuality, right, is somebody who's very transparent, who's very upfront, who's very honest. But if you're at the same time non-consensually sharing photos, well, then you're obviously not engaging this in a very honest way, right? So let's continue here with these allegations. So she knew him for 5 to 6 years. She was in heavy disagreement. Despite this, I do my best to see the best sides of all people, trying my hardest to spread positivity and create understanding where I can. It's corny, but I want to meet people where they are, focus on which ways we can build bridges together towards a bright, better future for everyone. Some people call this a fault of mine. They say I'm naive and should be more careful. Those people are right. None of this is legally relevant except for perhaps the length of the the relationship. So all this is kind of legally irrelevant. Now, whether or not you care about it personally is up to you, or morally is up to you, but legally, this really doesn't matter to me. When I was 19, okay, so let's put it this way, 19, not underage, not illegal. I would look, I always, this is, you're talking about sexual stuff, you immediately want to look at the age. Is it 18? Which, or if depending on your jurisdiction, I know there's certain jurisdictions where it's 16, whatever. But in this case, I just look, okay, 19. All right, we're not dealing with it in a, because if it was an age issue and they were photos of an underage person, well, then he really would have to worry about other more severe and strict punishments, as well as certain registries and being placed on those registries. I was extremely sexually inexperienced and sheltered. Being severely terrified of leading someone on or SA, I thought I could trust Destiny on multiple long conversations with consent and boundaries. So this is only material insofar as they had conversations. So, and these would need to be substantiated. But if those conversations did not include Destiny specifically saying, hey, when you send me a photo, I have permission to share that, right? Unless there was some sort of consent to share photos, some sort of open permission to share photos, then that would be a problem, right? So you can imagine my surprise when I discovered he distributed graphic content of me without my consent. Super legally relevant. This part, distributed graphic. So nude, whether it's them having sex or just her, whether it's solo, whatever, BG, whatever category, without the consent, that's the elements right there of the many of the crimes. And also civil action, by the way. You read that right. Stephen Kenneth Bunnell sent graphic content of me to a random 19-year-old e-girl Discord kitten. So here we go. He had never met me before, so they didn't meet. And then she published it to the girl had never met. So sorry. Sent graphic content of me to a random 19-year-old e-girl Discord kitten he had never met before. Then she published it to the whole world. Rest assured, despite never having met her, he at least spoke to her plenty of times on the phone. Of course, this is what he says happened. I think it is just as likely he used her as a proxy to widely distribute this material while claiming deniability. Either way, it wouldn't matter because it was distributed. I do not understand why Destiny would willingly and knowingly put me in a position where I would receive nonstop sexual abuse and harassment. If we believe him, he was trying to impress a barely legal teenager using my body and privacy. Now, I get it, but I mean, first of all, you were the same age. Like, to be honest, and this is not legal at all, but it's a 19-year-old girl and you started dating when you're 19. So like, it's the exact same situation. And by the way, you're fully legal at 19. There's no issue with 19 in the United States. So yeah, I guess you want to use that term, that's fine, but you're an adult. So I think adults need to take responsibility as adults. The betrayal, coupled with hundreds of messages I've received filled with harassment and abuse, have left me feeling hopeless and devoid of all happiness. Now, this is strong language. Now, this is one where she needs to be careful, because where you get into defamatory grounds is when you start throwing around crimes. And sexual harassment and sexual abuse are criminal activities. So if she's accusing Destiny of this, she needs to be damn sure that those text messages actually involve that in a strict sense, not in a, oh, well, this was sort of coercive, or this was in a vague way. Like, oh, this is harassing because he's begging me for sex or something like that. Might be annoying, might be immoral, might be disgusting, might be unethical, but you need to be very careful when you throw out these words. And I think a lot of streamers, a lot of people on the internet, I've said this once, I'll say it again, they're not very careful with the words they use, and they throw out these legal terms as if they mean a feeling, but that's not what they mean. So I hope that she has backup to this, because this could be a point where Destiny can countersue if she in this statement, which is attributed to her, if she made a misstatement here regarding that. And once again, I'm trying to be fair to both sides, not both sides, but just be fair in terms of calling it where I see it in this statement. Okay. The only thing that's kept me going is the hope that I can bring this man to justice and have him face legal consequences for his actions. I agree with that. If someone did something wrong, they should face legal consequences. That's very, very true. For the past month, I've been speaking to lawyers about my situation and what to do, and I've decided that this is the best course. That's awesome. Great. I'll be suing him for violation of U.S. Federal Code 15 USC 18, 15 USC 6851. And let me just pull that up real quick, right? So you guys see it, USC 6851. I had it pulled up the other day. I don't know why I took it down. But 15 USC, let's pull that up real quick here. So that is, and that's a federal charge, and that is related to a civil action for disclosure of intimate images, right? So this is, anybody who you're going out there and depicting who is in a, let's say you're in a graphic, in an intimate sense, that's going to be there. So anything that involves the genitals, pubic area, nipples, bodily fluids, all that sort of stuff, any sort of graphic depiction there, that's going to fall under that. And particularly is going to open up this civil action, right? If you've had an individual whose intimate visual depiction is disclosed in or affecting interstate commerce, once again, this is the way that the federal government regulates everything in the world. They say it's all interstate commerce. Everything is interstate commerce. Think the Wicker case. But there's a particular case involving farming where an individual growing their own crops was judged to be interstate commerce because it affected the broader interstate commerce. Because of that, the federal government gets everything through interstate commerce. So I just want to say that's why they put that language in there. So the federal government gets jurisdiction, not the state government. Because mind you, most things should be handled at the state level, not the federal level. Anyways, if it's something that's done in interstate commerce, which just read this as almost anything you do, if you're breathing, the federal government thinks you're affecting interstate commerce. So that standard, the bar here is low. So an individual whose intimate visual depiction is disclosed anytime without the consent of the individual, where such disclosure was made by a person who knows that or recklessly disregards whether the person has not consented to such disclosure, may bring a civil action. So this is it does require a level of consent, but it is not a high bar. Reckless disregard for them not consenting, if it's not clear, it's going to be a reckless disregard there. It's going to be a reckless disregard. So this is not a huge standard, a huge bar to get over for a right of action in federal court. Once again, that's just the main claim. She can also bring the subsequent Florida claims, which I'm going to go over today, which would fall underneath that federal civil claim. So you could also have criminal charges as well that are brought, which I think would make this very interesting. So they go on to say right here that I've been told that a court case like this, sorry. And she will be filing a civil action relating to disclosure of intimate images and publication of private facts in Florida. So once again, Florida lawyer here, we're going to talk about that law as well. I'll be seeking emotional and punitive damages for his actions. I've been told that a court case like this could potentially cost tens of thousands. Actually, that's actually an underestimate. It could cost $100,000 easily. Against an individual like Destiny, who has money and who's going to pay for a lawyer, it's going to be a very, very expensive trial. So Destiny, this could be $100,000 lawsuit easily, $200,000 if he really fought it for a long time, appealed it, etc. It could take a long time. I am terrified. I mean, this guy talks about potentially suing Hassan as if for fun, and Hassan actually has the resources to defend himself. I cannot imagine what he would try to do to me. Sometimes I wonder if, and by the way, once you've actually come out here and filed a case, somebody can't really do that much against you anymore because you've already put yourself in a position where if they do anything, they now have other things that can be brought against them. If they start, attacking you or trying to blackmail you or personally come after you, you can add on criminal charges. There can be contempt of court. There's all sorts of things that can come into play if a party to a lawsuit is attacked in some sort of way by the opposing party. So I wouldn't be afraid so much as just you need to understand you're going to need that money for this. If you're going to come after somebody like this, yes, you do need money. In a civil case, yeah. Criminal, you can let law enforcement handle it. But in a civil case, yes, you do need money. You do need money. Sometimes I wonder if he does this as an intimidation tactic. I wonder if he's purposely trying to put fear into my heart when he casually talks about throwing money into a lawsuit with a multimillionaire. It's not about her. I think she's personalizing this. It's a general tactic, which is effective. If you know somebody's very wealthy and can sue you, you don't want to fuck with them really. Because you know that if they've got the money to burn, you don't want to have them burn that money. Now, a lot of people are bluffing. A lot of people do not have the spare funds or the time to do that. And if they end up engaging in a lawsuit, that will extremely impact what they do, particularly for a streamer like Destiny, who can no longer stream. If you're out there getting stuck in depositions, getting stuck with court dates, getting stuck with everything else, you're not going to be able to stream. And not only that, but it's going to hurt your streaming reputation. You're going to have trolls. You're going to have people in your chat. You're going to have haters. You're going to have a lot of stuff going on. You're probably going to get taken off certain platforms at certain points. You're going to lose advertisers. There's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to happen with you and hurt him. So that money that he has, he will quickly lose. And what you'll find is a lot of people, particularly influencers and people on the internet, they get used to living a lifestyle. Maybe they're living a lifestyle of cocaine and Minnesota hookers, right? You get used to spending a certain amount of money because you're making millions. But then when you're not making that money anymore, it's a problem because you no longer have that source of funds, right? So if you're a streamer who's used to making $10,000, $20,000 a month, and you no longer get that, that's a big deal, right? So as if it's an indirect flaunt or warning over its capability of outspending me in whatever legal case I throw at him. At the request of my friends, I have been encouraged to give my link to a Give, Send, Go regarding the case in hopes that we can raise enough for me to legally succeed. Whoever the next Joe Rogan of the left is, oh God, I hate that fucking title. It's as if Joe Rogan is on the right. Joe Rogan is not on the right. He's Joe Rogan. He just does his own thing. He has many left beliefs. This is a very annoying title to me. It cannot be someone that crosses sexual boundaries, violates consent, and puts women's well-being and safety at risk. It cannot be someone who puts women in positions where they have been sexually abused and harassed. It concerns me that Destiny has been interviewing potential DNC chair candidates like Marianne Wilson and Martin O'Malley, who have no idea what he's done. As time passes, he's trying to position himself to have interviews with increasingly powerful figures such as Zelensky. Well, at least for now, until that war is over shortly. I can't help but be filled with fear that Destiny might continue to succeed despite facing no repercussions for his actions. If the Democratic Party wishes to succeed in the future, it cannot be a party that accepts sexual exploitation of women. It cannot be a party that allows men like Destiny to break into the mainstream. For allowing him to access such spaces would be direct endorsement of behavior. None of this is legally relevant. This is all an appeal to essentially cancel him from the left. So for me, I read this dispassionately, really not caring, because this is all just an attempt to cancel him from the people that support him, which generally are left oriented. That's just a factual statement. Destiny supporters are on the left, not on the right. I think that's pretty clear. Although he's been on some, right leaning or right-ish podcasts, that's more to debate than to agree with their positions. I have been told that the payout might not have been worth the harassment and attention I would receive. In an ideal world, I would do this privately, but I've been told there's no realistic way a court will grant me anonymity. This means my only option is public. I've been told by a variety of people to not go public. I've been told by some people that Stephen really does feel sorry, but I am not inclined to believe them, especially taking into consideration his actions regarding me. Regardless, what Destiny did is unacceptable, and I believe he will do it again unless he faces justice. Let me be clear. He violated federal law. This is all I care about. This is the part that I mean, look, there's moral parts to the rest of this, right, etc. But legally, this is the most relevant. He violated federal law in his transgressions against me. Yes, he violated my consent. It appears so. Now, we'll have to see the evidence, right, which she says she has here, and is directly responsible for the sexual abuse I have received. This is the part that's dangerous for her. Saying that she received sexual abuse, she's going to need to substantiate what she means by that, because this is very confusing. Does this apply that he physically sexually abused you, or are you trying to say that people after they saw your nudes, called you names or reached out to you and said nasty things or harassed you? Is that it? So it says, I'm terrified. And then an evidence log, Destiny apologizing to me for his actions. Note I had to contact him asking about the situation before he sent me the message. Destiny downplaying the pain I felt and concerns. That's not really there. And Destiny offering to pay some bills, I guess, to try to make me feel better. I'm sorry, is a water bill being paid going to make me feel okay about a lifetime of trauma I received? So this isn't really the full evidence. We're going to need to see more here to substantiate the claim, particularly their nature of their relationship. And I mean, obviously they've got to submit the actual content that was distributed has got to be submitted to the court. Now, we're not going to get to see that. So meaning, like, in a case involving sexual things, the nudes don't suddenly become public, right? So it's not like it's not like, lawyers are flipping through looking at nudes during one of these revenge porn cases, right? It's not like in the case of, Aaron and Multi and Kayla Ricada and Nick Ricada, we go through and we see Kayla Ricada's nudes. It's not how that works, right? However, there does need to be some substantiation. Okay, let's get to the Florida crime. So there's a couple here that I want to talk about. We're going to do it in no particular order, but I just want to go over a few that he could be brought up against in Florida. There are several, and they could both criminal and civil. So we'll start with this one, which is Section 784. 049 of the Florida statutes. This is you guys can find this on Online Sunshine. This is our repository. I love Florida because we are the most transparent state. The reason for all the Florida man stories is because we have all of our criminal records open to the media. We send them out there immediately. They're very transparent, including mugshots. So you have all of that. With this particular statute, 784.049, once again, this is an overall caveat too. I'm not sure which criminal charges the police will ultimately bring. Therefore, I'm going to talk about several available in the state of Florida. They may bring one, they may bring multiple, who knows? So we're going to talk about all of them so we have an overall legal view here. That's why I kind of called this the full legal breakdown, because it may go beyond what is potential criminally. Of course, he's innocent until proven guilty under the criminal standard and needs to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt if it's criminal. If it is civil, you've got a preponderance of the evidence. So essentially, the jury thinks that, hey, she's more right than he is about this, and go on that side. So the standard lower for civil, criminal higher, right? So he is innocent until proven guilty. However, with the evidence or these allegations, I won't say evidence, the allegations we have, if they have the receipts that he sent these out and distributed them to the girl who then distributed them out to the wider world, that's really all you need to mostly prove most of these these criminal offenses. So sexual cyber harassment. So the legislature finds that a person depicted in a sexually explicit image taken with a person's consent may retain a reasonable expectation that the image will remain private despite sharing it with another person, such as an intimate partner. This is revenge. So this is saying that even if you give permission in Florida for someone to take your nude, you need to give separate permission to share it publicly. So it's not enough under this statute just to have a nude taken that would give permission for you to share it. No, you have to both have a nude taken and have explicit permission to share that. Those two separate consents, right? Consent to take the photo in the first place, that's one, and then consent to distribute it. That's two. So that is a pretty high level of consent. It's becoming common practice for persons to publish a sexually explicit image of another to internet websites or to disseminate such image to electronic means without the depicted person's consent. This is Discord, right? So the laws written by boomers, so they had internet websites. Well, electronic means, okay, Discord, right? Because you're saying, well, Discord's not a website. Well, no, it's an electronic means. So they got you on that one. Contrary to the depicted person's reasonable expectation of privacy for no legitimate purpose, with the intent of causing substantial emotional distress to the depicted person. This is exactly what they're alleging, right? When such images are published on internet websites, they should just say electronically, but okay. The images are able to be viewed indefinitely by people worldwide and are able to be easily reproduced and shared. The publication or dissemination of such images throughout the use of internet websites or electronic means creates a permanent record of their private nudity and private sexual explicit conduct. The existence of such images on internet websites or the dissemination of such images without the consent of all parties depicted in the images causes those depicted in the images significant psychological harm. Safeguarding the psychological well-being and privacy interests of persons depicted in images is compelling. As used in such section, the term image is not limited to photography, picture, motion picture, film, video, or representation. So it's includes, but is not limited to. So it's any of these things. Any representation. So all that stuff. AI even could potentially fall under that, I believe. But that might be you might actually, let me see, would this apply to AI? It could. That's interesting. Would a deep fake apply here? I think it would. A sexually explicit image of another. It depends whether the court would interpret another as an AI image or as an AI image. Is an AI image of you another? That's interesting. I would love to see whether this has been applied to deepfakes yet. I think you can make a compelling argument it does. And I think the court, being a bunch of boomers, wouldn't even understand what AI is. So they would just look at the picture and say, this looks the same and it applies. But I'm just reading the wording. The wording, it could be tighter for AI. Of course, these are things that we're going to improve in the law as we go down the line. Right? Korea, obviously, as I've covered in the Johnny Somali case, has specific laws about AI deepfakes and deepfake nudes, specifically pertaining to deepfakes. I think that's where the law will go in the United States as well, in many jurisdictions, specifically honing in on deepfakes and the problem with deepfakes, right? So, yeah, an addendum is definitely going to happen at this point. So, cyber harass means to publish to an internet website or disseminate through electronic means to another person a sexually explicit image that conveys the personal identification information of the depicted person without their consent. Okay. And that means their name, address, phone number, social security number, date, or unique physical representation. So you're going to be able to identify that it's them. So there you go. I think there's a pretty good case here. So let's see. A person who willfully and maliciously sexually cyber harasses another person commits a misdemeanor of the first degree. So this is where the intent comes in. If it is malicious, it's first degree, which is punishable by, let's see how much time. A definite term of imprisonment not exceeding 1 year. There you go. There you go. Let me back this out. Get back to where we got to go. Cool. All right. Someone asked, what about an audio recording? And now an audio recording is interesting, but I think, let's see, image includes photograph, picture, motion picture, film, video, or representation. It could be under representation, but that's a really good question. Now, there is another statute that clearly covers audio. We'll talk about that. But this one, I think that it might not fall under this. Good point about audio, because we know that there's a significant one about the audio that was leaked. Anyways, you can also have a civil action for injunctive relief, monetary damages up to $10,000 of the actual damages incurred, attorney's fees, and criminal and civil penalties. So she can recover attorney's fees here, which is really good. Really good if they're able to get attorney's fees. So cool. So that's one particular one. That's 784.049. Next, we've got digital voyeurism. Let's continue here. 810.145 says broadcast. This is digital voyeurism. So this is a separate crime under Florida law. Broadcast means electronically transmitting a visual image or visual recording. So while under the last one, we were questioning whether or not it would apply to audio, this 100% applies to audio. So if this is audio of you getting a certain sloppy toppy, I think that's a legal term. If this is the heavy breathing, that would be enough to qualify under digital voyeurism. Family or household members, the same member meaning as in another statute, probably means a colloquial meaning. So somebody in your family or somebody who's living with you. Imaging device means mechanical, digital, electronic viewing, still camera, camcorder, motion picture, or any instrument, equipment, or format capable of recording, storing visual images of another person. There's position of trust and authority. So this is a position occupied by a person 18 years or older who's a caregiver, coach, or employer. So obviously this is going to be an aggravating factor. Privately exposing the body means exposing a sexual organ. Reasonable expectation of poverty means circumstances under which a reasonable person would believe that he or she could fully disrobe in privacy without being concerned the person's undressing was being viewed, recorded, or broadcast by another, whether it's the interior of a residential dwelling, bedroom, changing room, fitting room, dressing room, retaining booth. A person commits the offense of digital voyeurism if, for their own amusement, entertainment, sexual arousal, gratification, or profit, or for the purpose of degrading, exploiting, or abusing another person, intentionally uses or installs an imaging device to secretly view, broadcast, or record a person without that person's knowledge and consent, who is dressing, undressing, or privately exposing the body at a place and time when the person has a reasonable expectation of privacy. For their amusement, entertainment, sexual arousal, gratification, or profit, if you intentionally permit the use or installation of an imaging device to secretly view, broadcast, or record a person without their knowledge of consent, who's dressing, undressing, or exposing the body to a place where they have a reasonable expectation of privacy. So whether you're intentionally using it or installing it, or whether you're permitting its use, still bad. Still bad. Next, if you are intentionally using an image device to secretly view, broadcast, or record under or through the clothing worn by another person, if you are under 19 years of age and you violate the subsection, it's a misdemeanor. If you're 19 years of age or older, it's a felony of a third degree. If you intentionally disseminate or distribute or transfer the image, can be a felony of the third degree. And now this is not commercial because he didn't sell it, but we're talking about the potential if he was doing any of this without permission. Now, it sounds like he may have had permission to record, which would not be digital voyeurism. However, we have allegations this happened to multiple women. Did all of those women know they were recorded? How about the men? Allegedly, there were also men that he invited over on the gay dating app Grindr. I shouldn't say gay. The male seeking male, because you could be bisexual, I guess, which Destiny was, I guess. I have doubts. But that said, that aside, I'm not here to debate Destiny's sexuality. It's known, he's put out there that he would use Grindr to source men, and I believe that not all, from what I remember, and I'll have to go back and confirm this, I believe allegedly not all those may have known they're being recorded. So if any of those were not knowledgeable of that, they could file this, or if this information out, they could file digital voyeurism in Florida, right? If they're recorded, right? That's a big no-no. Okay, so that's another one there. So that's another one down. Now we've got two more, and this one has a criminal side and a civil side, but under both of these, totally fucked. This statute predates revenge and predates digital voyeurism. It's kind of the old school, kind of like the wiretapping style statute, which if you guys know anything about federal crimes and wiretapping, they can get everybody for wire fraud, right? Sorry, wire fraud, right? Which is essentially just transmitting something fraudulent electronically in any means, right? So this is a very similar statute here in Florida. Interception and disclosure of a wire, oral, or electronic communication. It sounds weird, and just understand this sounds fucking weird, but this is completely relevant to this. So anybody who intentionally intercepts or endeavors to intercept or procures, there it is, any other person to accept or endeavor to accept any wire, oral, electronic communication. Anybody who intentionally uses or endeavors to use or procures any other person to use or endeavor to use any electronic, mechanical, or other device to intercept an oral communication. And then it goes into the methods there. Or who intentionally discloses, endeavors to disclose to any other person the contents, here it is, the contents of any wire, oral, or electronic communication, knowing or have reason to know that the information was obtained through interception of the wire, oral, electronic communication is in violation of the subsection. And going on, intentionally using, endeavoring to use the contents of any wire, electronic communication, knowing or having reason to know the information was obtained through the interception, or the last one is through a knowing it's part of a criminal investigation. So this could apply here insofar as he is transmitting information out that he should not be transmitting. And of course, there are criminal penalties for this, as well as under separate statute over here, 934.10, they can nail you for civil remedies, right? For any person whose wire, oral, or electronic communications intercepted, disclosed, or used. So essentially, if you sent something digitally and it's used, because digital is electronic and it's used in violation of other statutes, you can have a civil cause of action. And you can recover damages, preliminary injunctive relief, punitive damages, attorney's fees, good faith reliance, court orders, subpoenas. You can have a criminal investigation, right? You can have a federal investigation. So there's all sorts of remedies for this. So point of the matter is there's multiple avenues under Florida law and federal law for them to go after Destiny. So Destiny is really, if these allegations are even a shade true, if they are, let me be very clear, he's still innocent until proven guilty. But if they are true, he's very